I'll just leave it to you all to ask questions as we go along, because a lot of directions to go in the topic, and maybe you can by raising points, you can direct it in whatever way is most relevant here. And by Bhavan, I mean actually devotees here in the Scottish Church. As you were speaking, I remembered last time I was talking about community in terms of rights and obligations. Was the theme. It was a topic that I've been discussing and bringing up in temples, or we have a Europeans leaders meeting once a year, and also at our GBC body, in establishing membership, because when we talk about community, we talk about community members and establishing membership, then that requires a certain degree of clarity, and as clear as things are, that's how well they work. Things don't really work any better than how well you've defined structure and devotees' roles as structure. And roles are dependent upon what you expect from someone else and what they're also getting. What we call rights and obligations. It's what, for instance, being a citizen of this country is about. You have certain rights, but you have certain obligations. You have obligations to pay taxes. You have rights to free education, at least not university education anymore. You have rights to education, certain health care, and so on, and protection by the law and so many other things. So, same thing when we talk about a Krishna conscious community, and to be honest, I think there are a lot of definitions of community. It depends where you are, what you're doing, what the already established parameters and history is. Here, we have one history. As you're saying, and we have another. There's the benefit of being able to actually develop things from the ground up, which is always easier than taking something and then trying to remold it. But probably the first and most common phenomenon is actually the common acceptance of the fact that devotees are not defined by those who live in temples, those who are active full-time, but devotees are based on who actually has faith in Krishna. So when the inhabitants of Karuna, they asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 3 successive years, who's a Vaishnava, then Lord Chaitanya repeated each year a similar definition. He talked about a beginner Vaishnava, an intermediate Vaishnava, and an advanced Vaishnava. But the relevant thing is that he always defined the Vaishnava in relationship to someone who chants Hare Krishna. You may chant Hare Krishna differently, with a different type of faith and a different type of conviction, but the term Vaishnava is the same. So that's common. And well, at least defining community, I think it's fair enough to say that you define define a community when people have things in common. If they don't have things in common, it's hard to get community. So what's the common denominator? The common denominator amongst members of the Krishna conscious community is the Krishna consciousness, is that they all believe in Krishna, and they all have just like in that description with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they have a minimum description, they have a minimum faith of Krishna. So that minimum faith is that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I can serve Him. So that's and even though not Pachani Bhakteshu, even though a person may not know really how to interact with other Vaishnavas so well, but because he has that Ishvara, this is my Ishta, those are my worshipable deities, Krishna, Karuna, are my worshipable deities, and that's Vaishnava. And on the basis of that, then what does a Vaishnava do? Someone who thinks that yes, Krishna is God, and I'm Krishna's servant. Someone to serve and make the service. So that then becomes one of the real, both rights and obligation. It's a right for us to do service, and service is also an obligation. It's a very interesting thing. It's common to both. Usually, right isn't an obligation. But here, in that case, once again, something that we have in common. Devotees have the right to render devotional service, and they also have the obligation to render devotional service. So otherwise, one may really consider how involved or how active is one's involvement in a community. Because if you talk about community, a community is something that's trying to go somewhere. Not go somewhere in the geographical sense, say that this community is located here around Lesmahego. It's not that they're meant to be necessarily moving from Lesmahego to studying from somewhere else, or Edinburgh. But it's here, but it's going somewhere. What is it trying to be? What is it trying to facilitate? Is it just people who are living together with their own set of different ideals, different values, different perceptions of what they're doing? Or do they actually have something common? Because when you have a bunch of people going in different directions, that doesn't give you a common direction. When everyone's very clear that they want to go in a unified direction, then that gives some kind of direction, some kind of goal as to what one wants to achieve. And of course we know that there are different goals that devotees have been given by Srila Prabhupada. Give Krishna consciousness to others, distribute books, become Krishna conscious yourself, go back home, back to Godhead, create a self-perpetuating community that gives the facility to make people Krishna conscious, distribute books, go back home, back to Godhead. And these are particular goals that have to be very, very, need to be clear and need to be accepted, at least in terms of a more defined sense of community. Otherwise, when it becomes very, very loose, and you have 50 people, and everyone's got their own definition of what a community